Hey, everybody, welcome to another emergency podcast episode of the Blind Ambition with
We need
Jack
sirens
Kelly.
going on when we do this. Like for the next time.
No, I think we really do, right? Because there's just so many things that are
Lights.
just crazy going on in the tech industry, but also the world right now. Let's take a second to kind of admit what's going on there.
What you mean, like possible World War III?
Recession, right? Like, oh my gosh, it is just not an easygoing holiday season for us right now, right?
No.
We're and so I'm excited to chat about what happened this last week with you, Jack. You're an expert. You've been recruiting specifically compliance folks, professionals in crypto, in Wall Street, these high flying finance firms, fintech companies, Web3, crypto, you know it all.
Yeah.
So I can you break down what happened last week with FTX and
This is
Sam
amazing.
Bankman-Fried?
It is amazing because, like, to be fair, I never paid much attention to FTX up until
Okay.
recently. And over the weekend, that's all I could watch and do. Like on TikTok, it was like one video after another. So here's the nutshell. Here's like the cliff notes. You get this guy, Sam Bankman-Fried, and you can't make up that name, right? Sam Bankman-Fried. And he comes across as this nerdy, Aspergery, autistic-y kind of guy. Now, whether he is or not, I don't know. But if you hear him talk, he does seem a little unique. And he was heralded as this wonder kid, this boy genius. He's like 27, and all of a sudden he is trading cryptocurrencies worth supposedly like have a net worth like 20 billion plus, living and working in this penthouse in the Bahamas with his crew, and just trading all day, making crazy amounts of money, and living this about like wildlife.
Right.
He's giving money to charity. He's funding politicians. He's meeting with Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC. He's like this guy who's everywhere. When other cryptocurrencies were blowing up, he was kind of bailing them out. So he got this mystique of he was being called the next JP Morgan, the next Warren Buffett. So like he is like up there, right? And almost overnight, this guy, he goes by CZ. I can't recall his exact name. He's a CEO for Binance. He got into a Twitter spat. Yeah. He got into a Twitter spat with Sam, SBF, we'll call him, right? Basically saying his FTT token. Now, when you deal with the cryptos, it's like a whole other language. It's like, it's not even English anymore. I don't know what it's like. It's just so weird. So their token is FTT, and this guy CZ, who's a competitor, was like, I don't know about that coin. I don't know if this is a good coin or not. I'm gonna scale out of my position, right? Like an evil character in a movie. And once he said that, because the guy has clout, he's really well regarded in the space. So if he's saying that, there's a moment of shit. Oh no. So that means, like, if he's saying I'm bailing out, because these things are volatile. These things they're not like regulated. So all of a sudden, I guess anybody who had FTT was like, I'm out of here. And you had like an old fashioned run on the bank where, give me my money. I want my money out. I want my money out. And then you have other probably hedge funds and what have you who are shorting it to make it worse. So he went from being like worth $20 billion to worth like nothing.
$5.
Like less than nothing, because now he has to have all these lawsuits, all these, civil, lawsuits, perhaps criminal lawsuits. So overnight, imagine that overnight, you going from the boy wonder, the boy genius who's made a fortune trading cryptos, to now, like they were saying, he was going to be on the run, flying to Argentina to get away. What?
Wow. And taking a step back, it turns out like this FTT token seems to be kind of at the heart of kind of the blow up, right?
Yes.
Where Sam Bankman-Fried, he had his own hedge fund called Alameda Research, and they were placing these bets on the cryptocurrency kind of markets, and they were actually taking, or allegedly rather, taking funds from FTX, like using these customer money, and re- what it was an accounting trick basically. What Alameda Research would do is, they would take the hard currency, or the cryptocurrency from FTX, the customer money, and then give them equal amounts of FTT token that they printed, um, and a CoinDesk reporter, a cryptocurrency industry news site, got leaked financial information, the leaked financials of Alameda that really uncovered and started to unravel everything. And that's what led to CZ going on Twitter. That's what led to these customers trying to pool their money, saying, I didn't agree to this, right? This is supposed to be mine, and that's the bank run, the liquidity problem. And now, I mean, what is really interesting is my understanding is FTX's customers, they're not retail investors. It's not the same audience as Coinbase or Robinhood, where it's just, crypto.com or blockchain.com, where it's might be just mostly, people like you and me kind of putting a few $1,000s, hundreds of dollars in crypto. But these are supposed to be some of the most sophisticated financial, like large behemoths that are FTX's customers. And did they get duped? Like, what
It's
happened
it
there?
seems that well, it's here's what I could kind of piece together. You're absolutely right in your analysis, and I love it. It's it seems I'll give the benefit of the doubt that at the beginning stages, I remember seeing a video of him, SBF, saying that he was doing this arbitrage where he would, have Bitcoin and then trade it in different exchanges, a Korea
Right.
exchange, Japanese. And I guess for some reason there was this like gap and he was able to just print money doing that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Let's give him that. So that's where he
Okay.
maybe got his stake, right? But
Right.
then it sounds like that closed up because that's what happens in Wall Street. Someone can have this edge, but then everyone else discovers it and then you lose
It's
that
not an
edge.
edge anymore.
So
Okay.
now you got to do something else. And you hit it. What he did is like when allegedly, we got to be careful. I don't, we don't even try,
I mean, well, things
allegedly,
are changing every single hour,
yes,
day. So, um,
allegedly he took, as you said, the money that belongs to the clients. And what you're supposed to do with regulated, like let's say if your money's with
right.
Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs or your local bank, it has to be segregated. And the bank or the entity can't just say, all right, we're going to take all your money without your approval and recklessly trade it, basically rolling the dice in a casino and hope that we're going to win because now we're losing a lot of money. We got to make up ground. So that's where it looks like they crossed the Rubicon and really went into kind of dangerous territory.
I mean, what I think is really interesting, there's two trends that I want to pick on, right? One is this a watershed moment for the cryptocurrency industry? SBF, FTX, they were known as the darlings. He bailed out some of the companies. He owns, I believe, 7 or 8% of Robinhood when
Yes, like
Robinhood had its
$472
own
million worth
liquidity
of it. It's
issues,
crazy.
right? Um, Terra Luna, you and I earlier this year, we started talking about it. That blow up again, FTX, SBF came in, right? And he used to be the kind of lender of last resort, the like this the crown jewel, the savior of the industry. Is this kind of the end of consumer trust in the industry? Is this kind of the final like stake in the coffin? And we're saying, oh gosh, like this really is a scam, or wow, this really is a horrible investment idea.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be a big game changer. I'll add one more piece to it. He
Please.
built in, allegedly built in, without supposedly without the knowledge of like the internal auditors, the compliance, the financial folks, that he could change. He had a back door that he could change the finances so that if
Wow.
people had to look at it, they wouldn't know the real situation of what's going on. Plus, as this was going on later on, either you don't know who did it, there's allegations that money was hacked out of it, out of the platform, or siphoned out. Who knows who took it? So there's a lot going on. And to bring it back to your point, Rick, I think what's
Right.
going to happen now, there's going to be no choice to have like regulations. Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, like hands off. They really just, for whatever reason, didn't dive into doing something as the whole crypto Bitcoin area kind of grew. I don't know, they were asleep at the wheel. Now they have no choice but to go in there and do something and put rules and regulations there. Because if they don't, this is just going to happen again and again and again.
I mean, what I don't understand, I mean, maybe this is the
Yeah.
reason why they would go deep in right now is, I could understand the SEC and um the government wanting to like get in, slap on like create a new regulatory scheme, a lot of these new rules. If it were like a retail investment heavy, like everyday people getting affected. But I mean, these are supposed to be the most sophisticated, it's a hedge fund, right? Like you and I, you know, most people they can't, you know, get in and invest their money with a hedge fund, right? It's supposed to be the Scrooges of like, like the big right guys that work here and they got scammed. And so I wonder, like, does the SEC then say like, hey, you guys should know better? Or is it because like
That's
is it a too big to fail moment? Like,
It's kind of both. Yeah, it's like too big to fail. And then also you have this veneer of safety when you have places like Sequoia that invested, that's a really legendary VC.
right,
And you have Tom Brady, football icon, who's repping it and shilling it. You have Mr. Wonderful, the guy Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, who, oh my God, it looked like he was going to cry, say like on those videos. So everyone probably seen and say, hey, I lost money, but it's okay. I'll get it back. So like what happens, I think you look around and go, wow, these are all really accomplished people. They know what they're
right,
doing. So, okay. And then I think you have FOMO. And it affects everybody, not just like average retail investors. You don't want to be that person who doesn't go all in on something and all your rich buddies do, and they're making even more money and you're left aside. So you get sucked into it. So even though you're supposed to be an accredited investor and you're supposed to be
right.
really knowledgeable, you're human and you get sucked up into it. You can't, it's just a thing. And sometimes you need to protect people from themselves. And I think there has to be some safeguards. And I'm kind of more of a
Oh,
libertarian type of person, despite the fact that, as you pointed out, I recruit people in compliance and regulatory space. But at heart, I'm more of a libertarian, like, hey, do whatever you want to do, less government. But like seeing what happens and how people, financially could be destroyed. And I think there were a lot of small time investors in there too. I think
ah,
there's a whole lot of retail investors who got in there as well,
oh
and they
no.
lost money. And then the contagion effect is like, I don't know where it's going to end. So this is a disaster.
I mean, what I think is really interesting is yes, there's that FOMO, that hype. Looking back, hindsight is always 2020. Do we kind of look out like, oh, maybe there were some red flags with FTX, right? It was offshore in the Bahamas,
Right. Number one, right. One
right?
front, right. That's front thing.
Right? Like the second guy, what else? There was a big Super Bowl ad that they
Yeah.
did recently, right?
Super Bowl. I've noticed in the startup, I've written a lot about these companies. Well,
Like the
almost
kiss
like
of
all
death.
the companies who invested in the Super Bowl did not do so well.
Like,
They didn't do so well. There's a correlation between the two. So, like, yeah, investing in the Super Bowl ads, yeah,
I mean, what else is there? Right? He had no board of directors, I'm
no
told,
board, nothing.
right?
His
His
girlfriend was like the
VCs,
head trader.
right? Exactly. The VCs told him, uh, you know, there was this interesting article that came out. It was on a VC website where it explained that the reason they wanted to invest in him was, like they were just like in awe. But what the article revealed, there's always that color. Um, SBF was playing a video game
Leagues of
during
Legend,
his
right? Is that
right during the like pitch meeting, and they still wanted to invest, right? And so like he's just not taking
that was the
anything
article saying,
seriously.
like, "We love him. Oh my god, he's the
Yes,
best. Oh,
I'm 10 out of 10
oh,
in,
10 out of 10."
right?
And like one of the guys, I guess was an Indian guy, goes, "He's the Indian what is it? Adrian Brody? Is that the actor's name?" Like
Oh my
just
god.
gushing over it.
Oh my
So
right.
it,
So what is it? No board, playing video games during your investment meeting.
yes.
I did some quick, like basic research before, and he had a quote unquote meme round investment where he raised $420 million from 69 investors, just like Elon Musk style
Yeah.
potty humor
Yeah.
fundraising. And, you know, wow, like you look back and you just kind of count all these like little red flags and you think, oh, actually, perhaps I'm not that surprised as
And
I think, right? Like, huh, like,
I'll add some more to it too.
okay,
It's like you would have to construct SBF. Like he's not a normal person. You know what I mean? I saw him on stage with former President Bill Clinton and one of the former president premiers of whatever they have in UK, Tony Blair, so a guy like that. And he's in his shorts, like
right,
tube socks, like a shirt that's all rumpled, like he slept in. His hair is like all over the place, like a big messy, fro. It's almost like you invented this character. It's not like a real person. It's like you got to even wonder, did they just put him out there? Here's another, this is my theory too. I wonder if it's not just him. Like they put him out there because he looks so innocent. He looks so, oh, he wouldn't do anything wrong. And then either he's really evil or he's just that front person and there's some other people behind the scenes pulling the strings. And that's what we're going to find out. This is what makes it so interesting.
going back to your point, when you're talking about this kind of image that they made of SBF, right? Like how legendary is it
Right.
to just go by your initials? I mean, is this very similar to Theranos, where we just all wanted to believe
Yes.
that a college graduate dropout, female self-made billionaire could truly change the world to such an extent? Like, is this kind of like a do we need like a reckoning in terms of the tech industry, in terms of the news media, in terms of tech PR even?
It's such a great point. It's like, I think we tend to want to believe things that sound great. Like we want, like, for instance, with SBF, he had this altruistic kind of thing that he,
Right.
subscribed to. So to make as much money as possible so we could give away as much money as possible. And
Right.
like, so you want to kind of say, wow, what a great person. And then he gave to all these causes, he gave to all these, Democrats and these different politicians. So, like, he created this veneer, like, oh, wow, this guy is the real deal. He's a genius from MIT. And look at all these altruistic things he's doing. So you want to support him. You want him. And then Tom Brady, Giselle, they're on his team. Yeah, I want him too.
Yeah, I wonder the second thing that's going to happen, besides kind of like ruining it all for the
Yeah.
entire crypto industry, is um, what I found really interesting is how the other cryptocurrency exchanges responded to FTX. So, in the US, the big players is Coinbase and are Coinbase and Robinhood, right?
Mhm.
In Coinbase, what they did right after is they sent out emails to all their customers and saying they just refuted every point, right? Saying, like, no, we are a safe,
Yeah.
secure exchange. Your money is safe. We have your funds one to one, isolated, whatever, right? Um, and what Robinhood decided to do is I saw online on social media that instead of kind of explaining how they're different, and how everything is safe with their exchange. They sent out an email and said, oh no, this thing happened in the cryptocurrency. Move all your cryptocurrency to us. They treated it like a marketing moment. They were trying to take advantage of this opportunity, right? To collect more, customers and funds. And I thought that kind of dynamic was quite interesting, right? Where I think before the events of last week, we all, perhaps not we specifically, but like the industry at large, saw Sam Bankman-Fried as kind of the elder statesman of the crypto exchange, right? He was talking with regulators, he was talking with politicians, he was lobbying, I'm assuming, advocating
Mhm.
for regulations and making things legit, which is ironic, right? Perhaps because he was not legit. And now you're actually seeing Coinbase kind of step up into that role, right? And saying, hey, we're a public company. We're audited, all our financials, right? We are trying to do the right thing because we're trying to educate folks how we're different, right? Saying, hey, your money is safe with us. You can continue to trade perhaps with confidence. I'm starting to see like, there's this kind of like shifting dynamic, and cryptocurrency, it's 24/7, and so it happened quick.
I think you're right. I think Coinbase is going to be a big winner in this because Brian Armstrong really came on strong. I saw he, no pun intended. I saw him on the All In podcast. He kind of had his suit on, the red tie, the white starched shirt. Seriously, and
Wow.
yeah, because because he's a smart guy, so he realizes, hey, there's guilt by association. It's always easy to just to kind of label everybody in a sector the same way. So I think he's trying to stand out. Hey, and he kept saying, we're regulated. We get our numbers audited. You can see them. They're, what I mean? They're, since we're a publicly traded company, you could take a look at them. Really trying to differentiate himself and his company to say, hey, look what we're doing. And I think that's what's going to have to happen. You're going to have companies like that that are going to really go overboard to show, hey, we're doing everything by the book, dotting every I, crossing every T.
I mean, I think that's funny, right? Because like, I used to work at a fintech company, and there's almost kind of this like arrogance within fintech companies, this like antagonism they have against quote unquote like traditional finance or Wall Street, right? Like they used to like you start seeing all of these kind of like quote unquote like neo banks, right? They're making fun of these big banks, saying they're better because they don't charge these fees, or they're better and you can save you money because they don't have these ridiculous marble facades like these
Yeah.
grand banks on every
Yeah.
corner, right? But I mean, you have to take a look back and see like, well, there's a reason why banks have all of those like grand facades, right? Like these like it's marble, there's
Yeah.
classic architecture. It's like, no, we've been around doing this for hundreds of years. No, we're stable. Like, look how solid
Mhm.
everything is. And now I think we also have kind of this like reckoning in terms of this crypto fintech kind of mentality of, oh no, like maybe those guys that have been doing it for 100 years, um they're probably doing something right if they're still just if they're they have these generational businesses rather than kind of this like startup hacker mindset that might not necessarily work in crypto and fintech.
I wonder if there got to be a combination because think about it. During the financial crisis, they blew themselves up and they blew us up.
Sure.
They
You're
went a
right.
little wild in terms of all those mortgage-backed securities and securitizing all these products. And then Lehman went under. Merrill had to be bought out by B of A. It
Right.
really was a big, game changer. So the fintech people aren't that wrong, but then the other side, it's so crazy because Bear Stearns had lots of internal regulators, compliance people, auditors, and they still went under and had to
Wow.
be kind of rescued by J.P. Morgan. And so Lehman kind of went under, and they just kind of went under. but a lot of the other banks were just bought out by bigger, rivals. So
Sure.
I don't know what the answer is, because even they kind of blow themselves up on a fairly regular basis.
Gosh. So, I mean, earlier this year, you and I spoke, Jack, about how interesting crypto is,
Mhm.
right? We were learning about all of the different concepts like staking, what these tokens mean, the underlying technology. And, I'm going to be very open. I was quite interested. I didn't make any moves, but I was thinking, like, oh, wow, like this could be big. This is interesting. I don't know if you felt the same way, but has your opinion changed of the cryptocurrency kind of market or industry since last week's events?
It's really interesting. So like, turn back the clock like 10 plus years ago, right?
Okay.
We placed a person at a crypto exchange, and I was like, huh. And we were joking in the office, hey, should we be paid in crypto? And at that time, it was Bitcoin, not even crypto, it was just Bitcoin.
Right.
And we're like, and then I don't know, it didn't go anywhere. And then I was curious. So I would ask, you know, people who I knew at these different companies, and to a person, they're like, Jack, this is the Wild West. Don't touch it. It's crazy.
Wow.
And and so then I like, all right, I don't need, I run a business. I don't want to be like something goes wrong. And then what a headline, hey, the head of a search firm that does a lot of compliance violated compliance rules. So it was like, all right, I'll stay away. But then I was salty for a long time, because then I saw it just price going up, and like, those
Right.
sons of a bitches gave me such bad advice. I hate you guys. What if you would have told me? You would have told me back then. Oh no, it's great. I swear to God, I would have been. Put in 5 grand. Take a shot. But
Sure,
like, they
sure.
really. But I didn't hear it from one person. I heard it from so many who were just
Wow.
saying that. So I put it off. Fast forward. The only thing I've dabbled in is like, they had these quasi ETF kind of products that kind of to give diversification. So you get a little bit of Ether, you get a little bit Bitcoin, you get a Solana, you get a little bit of this. So I figured, let me have exposure. But I lost money on all those things.
Oh
So
no.
I mean, not a ton, but just, so like, yeah, I've shied away. And then watching this now, right? What unfolded with FTX, to me now, I feel like, just my own personal opinion, like, if you really don't know the game, it doesn't make any sense to get involved, because like, you don't know like what they're doing behind the scenes. Like, you're the sucker, because you just don't know what they're doing, and how they're making their money and how it all works. So like, how can you, it's like you go to the casino and the casino always wins. Can you win once in a while? Sure. But the casino always kind of comes out ahead. So like, for me now, unless something changes, I figured, or I do a lot of homework to know like everything about a certain crypto, and like a super expert that I have an edge. That would be the only time I think I would kind of enter into it. Otherwise, just by watching this, like, you could get your head handed to you if you don't know what you're doing.
Right. I mean, there's no underlying financial information that you can research about
Right.
any of these, right? There's no underlying at like with stock or security, there's something
You
that
look at the PE ratio, right? You look at the
right.
earnings, you look at sales, you look at the balance sheet, you can like try to do something. Here it's just, you got to buy it because it's going higher. That's all. It's going higher. You got to buy it now.
Just
It's going
the
higher.
the greater fool theory in
Yeah.
action, right? It only has value that
Yeah.
you could just in the future dump it off on someone else, right? I mean,
That's my cat in the background. Sorry. I don't know if you-
no, it's a live audio. I love it.
So,
Oh my gosh.
it's it is that kind of theory. It's like, okay, because you need other people to buy it, because if you want to
Right.
scale out, eventually you need more people to keep buying it to keep it. So it's almost like a Ponzi scheme, because if people stop buying it, then it just collapses, because there's, like you said, there's no inherent value. It's not like a stock that has earnings and dividends and what have you. So, okay, I'm still
Right.
getting dividends, is okay. This is just a coin, a token. My wife kids around saying it's like when my kids were little, they had these things called webkins, where you'd play a game and you have little tokens for that game. And they're called webkins. So she was like, they're webkins. They're no different. They're just, You just arbitrarily put a value on something that's like nothing.
Well, your wife is a wise woman. I mean, I wonder, like, what happens next, right? So FTX, they invested in Robinhood and other crypto exchanges. There's likely going to be a federal probe, right? There's going to be some investigation. I mean, if there's fraud, like what happens to Robinhood or all of these other companies that it's like,
That's a great
are their
question.
stocks just going to tank because the government's going to, seize the assets to kind of make, not all the way, but like try to make these affected victims, alleged victims, um, whole again? Like, I mean, what happens there, right? I think that is going to be something that we're going to have to wait weeks, maybe months, probably even a year or more.
Years, years,
Years.
because here's what usually happens, like in Wall Street, when you have some sort of, blow up,
Okay.
you have, you'll have FINRA look into it, you have the SEC look into it, the Department of Justice, you have different
Wow.
states, you have, Manhattan District Attorney, perhaps, let's say it's in New York, and you get this dogpile effect where now, like, fear of missing out for investments, you have fear of missing out if you're kind of in you're a regulator, you want to jump in there because you want to get your name out there. And here's something kind of
Uh,
like weird, right? So you want to get SBF. You want to get those people because if you do, your name is in the press, and then you go from the DA's office to being a partner at a law firm, or maybe you go to a cool, hedge fund. So you use those scalps that you get when you go after these people as currency to go and get a better lucrative job because you're that person, you're that guy, you're that woman who brought SBF down or brought Alameda down or brought,
wow.
that, I can't remember her first name, but Ellison, his girlfriend and who's the CEO of Alameda Research, brought her down. So it becomes a game. So they all want to pounce. So what we're going to probably see is all these different regulatory agencies just converge on it, from the Bahamas, in the US and other places. And then you're going to have loads of civil suits and criminal suits
Right.
because people who lost their money, these very wealthy people they're like, hey, it
They're not going
wasn't
to take a
my
lying
fault, it was you
down.
guys.
Right.
I'm going to hire the most high powered lawyers and get my money back. The retail investor is going to yell and scream, and then it's bad politics because then they'll say, like, why didn't my congressman save me? Why didn't my senator do anything?
Right.
So then they
Wow.
have to act. So it just gets, so the ball gets rolling now with litigation and investigations and examinations. And then anybody involved with it, it gets toxic. So like, even if you want to find a new job afterwards and they look at your resume, even if you're tangentially related to it, they're like, I'll take a pass. So things get really ugly and really bad for everybody involved. And if like SBF doesn't have, money squared away, how is he going to defend himself? You know what I mean? Or if he has it, he's going to just blow through all the rest of his money. Yeah, these things
Every,
get ugly.
so every regulator, everybody affected is going to get their
Oh
pound of
yeah,
flesh.
it's a party.
Oh no.
It's a
Oh
party.
God. Well,
But
I
think about
think
it, it makes sense though, right? He's like, that's their gig.
that's their
Now,
job.
they should have
Yeah.
found it first, but they try to make
Right.
amends by jumping in it afterwards, and say, okay, now we're doing it to show, hey, look what we're doing. And there's something to that too, because like, okay, maybe you missed it. We're only human, but now you find out what went wrong. So then you can make sure it doesn't happen to other crypto exchanges and to other entities. So it makes sense. So everyone kind of piles on, and then you get to keep getting headlines of like crazy stuff that we keep uncovering.
Right. Like apparently they allegedly had no CFO. Do you
See,
believe
this is
that?
what I don't get, dude. It doesn't make sense. You have kids, because they refer to as kids. It's not me saying that. Kids, like these young people who are trading, and even SBF and Ellison, they worked at Jane Street, of like a trading firm, but only
Right.
for like 8 months, a year maybe ish. So
Oh,
it's not like these were Goldman traders for 20 years or Morgan Stanley traders or Citadel traders for 20 years. like he was 27 when he started this, so you didn't have a whole lot of experience. So there's something missing. I think there's a big piece that we don't know yet. There has to be more people involved. And just when I'm saying this, so whoever is watching this, listening to us, I love my life. I love my family. I am not depressed. I'm not.
Okay.
I don't think of suicide. So if
Right, right.
anything happens, or you know what, forget about it. No, everything is okay with the firm. I take everything back. I don't want to get in trouble. No, because
I
yeah,
mean,
it's gonna be
that's the
interesting.
crazy thing, right? Where FTX in the industry was known as very lean, fewer than 100 employees with billions of dollars in revenue. And everyone thought, wow, he's figured it out, right? Like when Coinbase, Robinhood, they had to do their layoffs, FTX didn't, right? Everyone pointed and said, like, look how efficient they are.
It's
Well, wow. No
it's
leadership team, no board,
you
fewer
know
than
also,
100 employees.
you know what even drives me nuts? Like you've probably seen it over the weekend on Twitter where they show the different graphs of all the ownership stakes he has in different companies. And there were so many. I'm like, wait, how could you be a trader? Right. Which I imagine if you want to be a good trader, you have to be glued to your terminal
Oh, God.
all the time. Cause like you pointed out, it's nights and weekends. It's not just, during, exchange hours. So
Right.
how do you have time? How do you have time to trade, schmooze all the politicians, and create all these companies, invest in all these companies? That doesn't sound right. That doesn't make sense. It's just not possible.
So, I mean, I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to follow live,
Yeah.
keep our eyes on this because it seems like every single day there's an insane headline. Thank God for these journalists that are going through and like digging through every single thing to help us make sense of it. But I think, I think it was this morning that it was revealed they didn't have a CFO, right? So tomorrow it's going to be something else. And I'm sure the day after that, it's going to be
Yeah. This
something else entirely as well. And I think, gosh, it'll be years until we figure out what the heck happened, I suppose.
There's some story, right? It's so crazy.
Yeah,
I
I can't wait to watch the movie.
I put Jonah Hill as SBF. I haven't thought of the other ones yet.
Oh my gosh. And that's a wrap for this
All right,
episode.
cool.
Thanks for joining us on this emergency podcast as we try to make sense, not uncover, but try to make sense of what the heck is going on with crypto. Thanks, everybody.